Hello, so I'm in the Ample Domicile for housing review number 3. I did plan to review Ravenhurst um, next, but it's EU character transfer on the PTS, and I have Ravenhurst completely decorated, which makes it a lot more difficult. So I'm going to wait for NA transfer before I do the review for Ravenhurst like I planned. It's been a couple of weeks since I've uploaded one of these because there have been all sorts of issues with the PTS not being up on a Monday, which is when I have the time to record these. So I'm here in the Ample Domicile, which is in Shadow Fen in Stormhold. As usual, I have built platforms all around the edge so that we can have a look at the garden and the view first. So before I look properly at the garden, we'll have a little look at the views. As you can see, the views here are really nice. You can just look over Stormhold. It's kind of quite a cute, nice little view. It's not really, well, on one side it's really sort of wild parts of Shadow Fen, and on the other side you can see Stormhold. It's just quite a nice little view. Here, lots of other little Argonian houses to look at. The view's quite nice here. It's not quite as stunning as some places, but it is a nice little view. Height-wise, you can't get as high as the house quite. This is where the invisible ceiling is. So this is as high as you can build, which isn't too bad. It's not really, really high, but it's high enough to be able to do some quite creative things. And the view up here is actually much nicer than down there. You've got the nice view of the water over there. It's very pretty. Okay. And the garden itself is a really, really good size for a medium house. Last time I looked at Cliffshade, which didn't even have a garden. So when taking other houses into account, the size of this garden is really good for a medium house. It's got water here, which is nice. It's only a little patch of water, but it's still got some. It's kind of a bit of a wild, overgrown sort of a garden, but it's nice. It's big. You could do a lot out here. Then we've got the actual house. I think some people really don't like the way the Argonian houses look. I personally think they're quite cute. I quite like them, but I guess it's just a matter of personal opinion whether or not you love or hate the look of those. So yeah, this house costs 195,000 gold when you have the Eggenreet achievement, or you can buy it from the Crown Store for 3,520 crowns, or furnished for 4,400 crowns. So yeah, things that are in the garden that you can't remove. To go into build mode to have a look at this. I think the only things you can't really remove here are these kind of broken up tiles that are out here, which, as I always say in every one of these, I think we should probably be able to remove these tiles, because you might just want to have greenery out here. Might not be a fan of these broken tiles. It could put people off buying it if they didn't like them. I personally don't mind them. Aesthetically, I've already mentioned the house. Unlike Humble Mud, this one has these little windows. Again, I think you either love or hate them, but they're the Argonian style, that's what they look like. So I guess if you didn't like the Argonian style, you wouldn't be interested in buying this anyway. Although I think you could quite easily change the look of the outside of this if you didn't like the look of it. Okay, so we're going inside now. Again, I've put planks to where the invisible ceiling is, which, as you can see, the invisible ceiling is where this little top bit starts. I think that's quite a shame. I think it would be really nice to be able to build in this little area at the top. I don't know why we can't, but we can't. It's a shame. But there is definitely room for a second level. I think here might be a bit high because, as you can see, you ping into first person and it's just a bit awkward. But you could have a second level lower down quite easily. It's very comfortable when it's this height and it's not too low. You've got plenty of room down here. So it is a nice place to have a second level if you wanted to. But like I said with Blackvine Villa, if you were to build a second level, this house does have 400 items, but when you consider the size of the garden, if you want to do something really cool and creative in the garden, maybe put platforms or a level up here so that you can have a look at the nice views, that's going to take a chunk of your item limit. So if you were to do that, building a second level inside might be difficult with the limit we have. I think overall 400 is good for this house. It's not a really bad limit, but I think if you want to be really creative and use all of the space creatively, because I've seen some really beautiful ample domiciles, really amazing ones, and they are very creative, but at the same time I think even the people that made these amazing ample domiciles would probably have liked a bit more to play with when it comes to the item limit, because again I'm comparing it to the other houses because I've only reviewed 2 so far, but Cliffshade is probably going to be a fine example now for all of them. It's setting a standard when it comes to item limits that this one doesn't meet. So yes, I think from a creative standpoint, I think this could do with a few more items, although it isn't a really terrible house for the item limit either. It's not the best, it's not the worst. So yes, I was going to talk about features. I've already talked about the features on the outside, which are pretty much the same as the inside. These little windows, again, depends personal preference really, whether or not you like them. I like them, and I really like the engraving on the wood, and I kind of like how it's all rough and strung together. I kind of like the look and the feel of the Argonian houses personally. I think for a certain theme, I think they work really nicely. So yes, that's the Ample Domicile. It's got 400 items. Personally, in my personal opinion, taking other houses into consideration, even though 400 does work here to an extent, I think an extra 50 items would be really good here. It would allow you to do some more building and more creative things. So I'd say 450. And I think, comparing it to the other 2 both got a 6. This one's got a garden, which Cliffshade didn't. And you can still build up in it the same as you can with Blackvine Villa, only this has got a much bigger garden than Blackvine Villa. Item limit wise, I would say it's maybe Blackvine Villa is a little bit better actually than this one, slightly, but there's not much difference when it comes to item limits. They're both doable, but they're not the best or the worst. The views here, I would say, are not quite as nice as Blackvine Villa. In a way, it's a very different kind of view. This is a very towny kind of view at the same time as sort of very marshy, whereas Blackvine Villa did have some more sort of pretty things like big waterfalls and things like that. So I think views about the same, I'd say. Both of them have nice views. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to have to give this one a bit more than the last two, which is odd because this is not one of my favourite houses like the other two, but taking everything into consideration, I think I'll give this one a 6.5 out of 10. So a little bit higher than the two Ultima houses I've done so far, just because of the size of the garden. It's got a really nice big garden, and the item limit is not bad. It's got a really nice view, and the creative potential here is absolutely amazing. You could do so much here. Look at all of this space. You can build up pretty high. I mean, you don't even really have to use the inside of the house. In a way, the house is just a tiny little speck in this garden. If you're buying this house, I think you're really buying it for the garden rather than the actual house. And in a way, it's a potential building plot, really. I mean, that house just takes up one corner. You don't have to use the house. You could build in front of the house or cover the house. There's just so many possibilities. And even if you did just want to use it as a regular house, I know when I decorated this, I didn't touch the garden. I just used all of my 400 items inside the house. And doing that meant that I could do a lot inside the house, but it also meant that I didn't take advantage of this amazing garden. So if I were to decorate this again, I probably would go the opposite way and just do the garden. So yeah, I've rambled on so much about this one now. So that is my review of the Ample Domicile. I hope that you enjoyed. I really love to hear what you think about this house as well. And anything that you've done with this house. It'd be really interesting to hear what people have done with this amazing garden, and even just inside the house, because yeah, I think the creative possibilities here are just endless, and I'd be really intrigued to hear about what people have done in this place. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that you have an absolutely wonderful day. Goodbye.